Hey, did you hear about these tariffs? It's very troubling, isn't it? So troubling that we're going to have to do an impromptu Friendly Geordies video, and you can tell that it's really impromptu because I embarrassingly have this in the background, as if this channel wasn't autistic enough. Look, obviously I'm on tour and my booking manager thought that it would be a laugh to get me the Mario suite. And yes, it is a laugh. I did not bring this with me as a comfort toy, although it is comforting. But I'm in Adelaide at the moment. That's all sold out. Rest of the tour of this month is in the description below. Let's get into it. In case you haven't heard, because you don't watch ABC 24 hours a day, which shame, you have to keep up to date with these things, don't you? 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium. Yes, we did not meet the exemption of Trump putting tariffs on everyone on the planet, it seems. The shock, according to the Liberal Party. Because did you know that their response immediately after hearing the news that this is going pretty much instantly was that why didn't Albanese go over and talk to Trump in the White House? I would imagine that a couple of those reasons would be that we don't live in the 19th century. Zoom does exist, that's one. The second one would be that we have ambassadors. The third would be, you all saw Keir Starmer try to butter him up.
It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter.
He had an official letter from the King, a very rare Harry Potter letter from the King. Yeah, the most beautiful scroll. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually was magic. I wouldn't be surprised if it was signed off by the Minister of Magic. He didn't get an exemption. What do you think Albo's going to do? Go over there and be like, you want to try some veggie, mate? It tastes bad. Yeah. You're not going to put a tariff on that as well, are you? Obviously, no one could talk sense into Trump when it comes to tariffs. I remember when there was this massive trade report and then he just wrote over the top of it. Obviously didn't open it because it still looked like it was fresh, like a brand new school book. And over the top of it, he just wrote, trade is bad. How are you supposed to get an exemption out of that guy? They tried. Over the last few months, that is basically been Kevin Rudd's job, to try and get an exemption on steel and aluminium. It didn't go down. And I think the reason that they have been trying to get this exemption is because we are one of their special friends. We are trying to do them a favor. This isn't going to hurt us anywhere near as much as it is the Americans. It's really weird that as soon as the new Republican administration has come in, their response to the world seems to be, I'm going to shoot my friends in the head by shooting myself through the head, and the bullet hopefully will ricochet and hit Albo. Honestly, Anthony Albanese, as usual, has been playing the I'm a very sensible adult role impeccably, with the surprising added twist of this grey bureaucrat finally getting some Albo Rabideau's flair into him. Have a listen to some of these comments.
Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified. This is against the spirit of our two nations' enduring friendship and fundamentally at odds with the benefits that our economic partnership has delivered over more than 70 years.
Admittedly, it would be a lot more baller if Albo could do something about his list, but hey, a win's a win. He is looking like the tough on our enemies candidate. This is so weird, the Trump factor. The fact that all across the planet, you've got the Canadian Liberals, the British Labour Party, now in Australia, for the first time ever, it's the Labour Party equivalent. They're the tough guys. While on the other side, you have people like Dutton, who just has the natural advantage of looking like Peter Dutton. On top of the fact that he's in the Liberal Party. He's supposed to be yeah, we're going to take on our enemies. But because now America has just decided, no, we're your enemy. It's really hard to walk back 50 years of relentless American simping. It's just not going to happen overnight. He has that image now. In fact, he was really pushing that through the whole, oh yeah, Australia needs its own Doge, purely because Gina Reinhardt opened up the Twitter feed that day. Like, yeah, Doge, I get it, it's your meme coin. Look, we've got a video on Doge coming out that is not impromptu, so we won't go too far into that. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of Facebook uncles that love Trump. The general electorate of Australia, however, does not. They would not have elected Donald Trump. And so Peter Dutton has to reckon with the fact that, yes, he does have to pander to that Sky News audience, but also does have to be appealing somehow to a broad base of the electorate that isn't into him. And this is getting worse now, because now Donald Trump is actively interfering with the Australian government and its place in the world. So when you look at Dutton on one side, and then you look at Anthony Albanese on the other, and we have an election coming up very quickly. Couldn't have come at a better time, really, could it, for Albo? This is God's mana. I think that it is obviously going to have a similar effect to what you are seeing in Canada. Obviously not to the same degree, because he's not saying, and also we're going to make Australia the 52nd state. Why not? I mean, Hawaii's one. But it's going to have that same knock-on effect of the electorate that already is primed not to like Donald Trump. They are going to be looking at this and thinking, oh, why would we get a mini-me Donald Trump elected? Why would we be doing that? Especially when he is menacing around. He is being menacing to Australia now. They are going to be moving towards the guy that they already envisioned in their heads, just purely on a vibe level, probably wouldn't get on with Donald Trump as well as Peter Dutton would. Now that is really good news for Australia in the long run on many fronts. First off, steel and aluminium exports to America, what is it? It's like 0.2% of trade or something like that. It is going to hurt Australia. Nowhere near as much as it's going to hurt America, which means that probably in the long run anyway, they will just quietly walk back these tariffs. In the meantime, Anthony Albanese gets to be tough on Trump, which is just going to be very good for him electorally. And that means that we probably will get a second Labor term. And the reason that I'm really excited about that is, I briefly talked about this in a much longer video that we released 40 hours ago. You can go back and watch that now. But me just briefly mentioning what the Future Made in Australia plan is, I did not realize how few people didn't know what this is. I thought, what do you mean? You didn't see the extremely boring, watered down government ads on 9Go? And so most of my own audience doesn't know what Future Made in Australia is. Future Made in Australia is the biggest project that any government has put out probably since World War II. This is about bringing back an entire manufacturing base. This is exactly the same stuff that Trump talks about but doesn't do. He just says, we're going to bring back American jobs, and then loses 170,000. Anthony Albanese has already started implementing the basics of this policy. And we have seen a return of over 70,000 manufacturing jobs to Australia. And what are those manufacturing jobs in? This is the really important part. The entire point of Future Made in Australia is to build an entire new manufacturing base around green energy, green tech. We are going to be moving the blue-collared working class of Australia away from being little orc goblins that dig gold out of pits, and they're still going to be there, but those materials are going to be going into factories, and those factories, their product will be decarbonising the world. This is a big reason why TAFE and free places in TAFE might be one of the most underrated but best government policies that has been put around in the last half a century. Definitely. Because what you are doing is trying to educate the working class to be working in these manufacturing jobs where their entire point is, instead of carbonising the world, which is what we're doing now with coal exports, changing that around to renewables, to electric car batteries, supercomputers. This is a huge shift. I'm seriously not overstating it when I say that this might be the biggest shift in Australia since World War II. This is talking about creating an entire new economy based around green tech. And what's really, really exciting about that is the fact that Trump is winding back all of Biden's investments in renewables. That opens up trillions of dollars of private investment, which is exactly what Future Made in Australia is designed to do. It's the same thing as the HAP. It is designed to start combining government funding with private funding, so you make that sort of glue that finds it really hard to untangle that, right? Like once that ball starts rolling, because you've got so many private contracts out in place, it would be very difficult for the Liberals to come in the future and start untangling that, which is exactly what they want to do. What is really scary about this election is if Dutton gets in with his minority government, he's going to scrap Future Made in Australia. This is one of the big points that he wanted to make at the private Christmas party with Gina Reinhardt. He wants to wind back Future Made in Australia. Why does he want to wind back Future Made in Australia? For the exact reason that the Labor Party wants it in. This is exactly why, because it is a union baby. This is something that was birthed in the unions, along with Ross Garnaut. Obviously, he was the big economic architect behind this, which is also just another guy. He was the guy that came up with the ETS, yeah? So like those guys, they're the ones that are coming up with this. And the reason is because it's going to be really good for the working class's living standards. It's going to be really good for their education standards. And also because they're working in factories, they're going to shock horror, unionize at greater rates. And the Liberal Party doesn't want that. So all I'm saying is, go Trump. What a guy. Keep him coming. Put on more tariffs. More. All I'm saying is, Albo, if you could just get a speech pathologist, but keep up your calf language, you're golden. Majority government. I'm ready. I think it's probably going to happen now. Like, I think that this is honestly going to start shifting polls. Let's see though, because every time I've ever said anything about polls, I've been completely wrong. But we'll see. And you will see my brand new Alien show, won't you? If you are in Rockhampton, Townsville, or Albury, and then, reluctantly, if you're from Wodonga, some of the better suburbs, maybe you can come to that as well. I'll see you around.